Captain Elias Grant had seen many strange worlds during his years in the stars, but nothing like this one. The planet was quiet, too quiet. No wind, no movement, only the sound of his own breathing through the helmet. The ground was pale like ash, and the sky was the color of dying embers. His scanner showed life, but only one faint signal, a single heartbeat in a world of silence. He walked slowly across the dusty plain, each step crunching like glass beneath his boots. His visor fogged slightly from his breath, and in the distance he saw her. A figure, small still, glowing faintly in the dim light. For a moment, Elias thought his visor was glitching, but no, she was real. The woman stood alone among ruins that looked ancient and broken. The walls around her were melted, twisted by some unknown energy. She had long white hair that moved like thin smoke, and her skin shimmered as if it reflected starlight. Her eyes were calm but filled with something deep, loneliness. As he came closer, his suit sensors started to beep. Radiation levels were climbing. The computer warned him to turn back immediately, but Elias ignored it. He'd seen life readings here, and he wasn't going to leave someone to die without at least trying to help. When he was about 20 meters away, she finally moved. Slowly her head lifted, and she looked straight at him. Her voice reached him through the comms, soft, trembling, and yet commanding. "Don't come closer," she said. The translator in his helmet repeated the words. But the tone, oh, the tone, carried something the machine couldn't translate. It was not anger. It was fear. Elias stopped. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said gently. "I'm here to help." Her silver eyes shimmered in the dim light. "You can't help me," she whispered. "No one can," he frowned. "You're not safe here." "The radiation?" She interrupted sharply, her voice breaking slightly. "The radiation is me." Elias froze. His heart skipped a beat. What did that even mean? His scanner confirmed it. The energy source was centered exactly on her. The radiation was spreading outward like waves from her body, but she stood unharmed. "I don't understand," he said quietly. Her expression softened with sadness. "You're human, aren't you? Always so curious. Always trying to fix what you don't understand." Elias gave a small, tired smile. "That's not such a bad thing, is it?" She looked down as if the words hurt her. "It is when curiosity kills you." There was a long silence between them. Elias could hear his own heartbeat in his helmet. The ship's AI called him on the radio, ordering him to return. But his eyes stayed fixed on her, on the way her body shimmered faintly, on the loneliness that clung to her like shadow. He wanted to know her name. He wanted to know what kind of being could live in this wasteland. And above all, he wanted to know why she sounded so sad. "I can't leave you here," he finally said. She lifted her face again, and for the first time he saw tears, silver, shining, and light as mist, slip down her cheeks. "Please," she said softly, her voice breaking. "If you take one more step, you will die." Elias looked at her, then down at his boots, and took a breath. He had faced plasma storms, alien soldiers, and the black silence of space itself. But this was different. This was not fear of death. This was the pull of compassion, of something inhumanly human. He took another slow step. Her eyes widened in panic. "Stop." But he didn't. Something in her voice only made him want to move closer. Not out of stubbornness, but because he could feel the pain in every word she spoke. It was like she had carried centuries of sorrow in that small, trembling voice. "Let me see you," he said softly. "Please." Her glow dimmed, and she whispered again, almost like a prayer. "You shouldn't have come." And in that moment, the ground around her cracked. The air shimmered with a strange blue light, and his sensors screamed warnings. The radiation level spiked so fast that the screen turned red. Elias felt heat against his armor, like standing too close to a sun, yet she didn't move away. She only watched him, her lips trembling, her voice a whisper lost in the hum of power around her. "I told you not to come closer." But Elias took one more step anyway. Elias returned to his ship that night, but his mind stayed on the silent figure he had met. Her warning echoed in his head like a heartbeat. "The radiation is me." He sat in the dim light of the control room, staring at the readings on his screen. The numbers made no sense. The radiation on that planet should have killed anything within minutes, yet she had stood there, alive, untouched, sorrowful. Every time the scanner zoomed in on her coordinates, the system struggled to process the energy she gave off. It was as if her body was both human and starfire. His crewmate, Lieutenant Margot, entered quietly. "You look haunted," she said, crossing her arms. "You found something down there, didn't you?" Elias didn't answer right away. He just kept staring at the planet through the viewing window. The world looked so calm from orbit. Gray clouds, soft blue glow over the surface, but underneath that peace was danger. "Finally," he said softly, "she told me not to come closer." Margot frowned. "Who?" Elias turned toward her. "A woman. Alone down there." She glowed like she was made of light. Margot laughed dryly. "You're telling me there's a glowing woman on a dead planet full of radiation?" "Elias, that's not a survivor, that's a hazard. We're leaving." But Elias shook his head. "She's not just a hazard, she's alive. Sad. Like she's been alone for a long time." Margot's face softened, but she still looked uneasy. "Captain, we have orders to move on. That world's been marked off limits for a reason. The radiation could breach the hull if we stay too long." He looked down. His heart told him what his mind refused to say. "She needs help," he whispered. Hours passed, but Elias didn't sleep. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, standing in the ruins, her hair flowing in the still air, her eyes full of silent sorrow. He replayed the recording from his helmet cam. When she looked at him and said, "Don't come closer," her voice had cracked at the end like it hurt her to say it. He zoomed in on her face. There were no signs of decay or mutation, no burns or wounds. She looked almost human, just too perfect. Her skin shimmered faintly, not from reflection but from within. Something about her felt ancient, not alien in the usual sense, but something born before war, before pain, and trapped in both ever since. Elias clenched his jaw. He couldn't ignore her, not when she had looked at him like that, like she had once believed in something good and lost it. He stood, grabbed his helmet and headed toward the airlock. When he stepped onto the planet again, the night had deepened. The stars above shimmered like frozen tears. She was there, waiting. "I told you not to come back," she said quietly. Elias stopped a few steps away. "You knew I would." Her lips pressed together as if she wanted to argue but couldn't. "You humans," she murmured, shaking her head slightly. "Always drawn to danger, always breaking rules for emotion." Elias smiled faintly. "We can't help it. It's how we survive." Her eyes glowed brighter, reflecting his face. "No, Captain. It's how you die." He took a slow step forward. "Then maybe I'll die trying to understand you." The words seemed to hit her like a blow. For the first time, she turned her face away, hiding something, a tear or maybe fear. The ground beneath her feet glowed softly, pulsing with her heartbeat. Finally, she said, "I was made to destroy. My touch kills. My breath poisons. I have lived here for centuries alone because that is safer for others." Elias's voice softened. "Someone made you?" "Yes," she whispered. "Long ago, by people who called themselves gods. They wanted a weapon that could burn armies, and they made me. But I didn't want to be what they wanted. I tried to run. I tried to be free, and when I cried, the world around me died." Her voice trembled. "Do you understand now why I warned you?" Elias's heart ached. He could hear the pain in every word. She wasn't a monster. She was a prisoner of her own existence. "I don't see a weapon," he said quietly. "I see someone who needs to be seen." For a long time, she didn't answer. The air between them shimmered faintly, full of invisible heat. The sensors on his suit beeped softly, warning him again. But he didn't care. "Why do you care so much?" she finally asked, almost a whisper. "You don't even know my name." Elias smiled sadly. "Then tell me." She hesitated, then spoke softly. "Lyra." He repeated it like a promise. "Lyra." And in that quiet, something fragile broke. The glow around her dimmed, the air cooled, and for a single heartbeat she looked less like a weapon and more like a woman who just wanted to be understood. But then the ground shook. The energy flared again and she cried out, "You shouldn't have come back." Elias shielded his eyes from the burst of light, but even as his sensors screamed warnings, he smiled, because now he knew her name. Elias didn't tell anyone about his second visit to the planet. He couldn't, his crew would never understand. To them, it was just another dead world, radioactive, hopeless, forbidden. But to him it wasn't. To him it was where she lived. Lyra. Her name stayed in his thoughts like a song that wouldn't fade. When he said it, it felt sacred. It didn't sound alien. It sounded human, fragile, and sad. He sat in his cabin, staring at the data on his monitor. Every scan of that area told the same story. Her energy levels were impossible beyond anything known to science. Yet somehow her presence didn't match the readings. She wasn't chaos. She was control. It was as if she was fighting her own power every moment, holding it back with pure will. And that thought broke something inside him. He imagined what it would be like, to live centuries alone, afraid to touch, to breathe too close, to love. How long had she been trapped like that? How many times had she watched the stars move overhead, knowing she could never leave her prison? The next morning, Elias made his choice. Against orders, against reason, against fear, he went back. The air was heavy when he landed. His boots sank into the gray dust and the wind whispered softly around him. The place felt emptier than before, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. "Lyra," he called softly. For a moment, there was no reply. Then a shimmer of light moved between the broken ruins and she appeared. She looked at him with that same unreadable sadness. "You don't give up, do you?" Elias smiled faintly. "Not when someone needs me." Her expression twisted slightly, a mix of anger and sorrow. "You don't even know what you're saying," she said. "You humans always think you can save everything. But some things were never meant to be saved." He took a careful step forward. "Maybe. But maybe you were never meant to be left alone either." Her glow flickered. "I told you I was made to kill. I cannot change that." Elias shook his head. "Then why are you still trying to protect me?" The question stopped her. For a second her lips parted, but no sound came out. Her eyes darted away as if she couldn't face him. The silence between them was deep and trembling. Finally she whispered, "Because you remind me of them." "Of who?" She looked down at her hands that glowed faintly with blue fire. "My creators. They were humans too." Once, Elias froze. "That's impossible. Humanity never reached this sector until—" "I know," she interrupted softly. "But there were others before you. Long ago, when your kind still lived under different stars. They came here searching for power, and they made me. They called me their light of victory. But I became their curse." Her voice cracked. "When I woke, I didn't know what I was. I touched one of them and he died instantly. They tried to teach me control, but every time I felt anger, fear, love, something burned. Cities fell. Oceans turned to steam. They realized too late that I couldn't stop it." Elias listened, heart heavy. He could see the pain in her eyes. The pain of remembering the only people she ever loved destroyed by her own hands. "They left me here," she said. "They sealed the planet so I couldn't hurt anyone again. I begged them not to go, but they had to." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Do you understand now? This world is my cage and my punishment." Elias wanted to say something, anything, but his throat tightened. He looked at her and all he saw was tragedy wrapped in beauty. "You've been alone all this time," he said softly. "Yes," she breathed, "and I've learned to stay that way. Until you came." She turned away as if trying to hide her tears, but the glow in her body flickered wildly. Elias could sense the energy building again, but he couldn't step back. "You said your touch kills," he said. "But you're still trying not to hurt me. That means you still care." Her eyes widened. "Care?" "Yes," he said simply. "You care enough to warn me, to protect me. That means there's still something human in you." Lyra shook her head almost in disbelief. "You speak as if humanity is something worth keeping." Elias smiled gently. "It is. It's what makes us fight for what others give up on." Her glow softened for a moment. She stared at him, studying his face, the way his eyes didn't flinch even when the air shimmered with deadly heat. "You really are foolish," she said quietly. "Maybe," Elias said, "but sometimes foolishness is the only way to reach someone who's forgotten what hope feels like." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The wind blew softly through the ruins. Then Lyra whispered, "Hope hurts." "I know," he said, "but so does loneliness." Something inside her broke again. Something deep, something fragile. Her light dimmed and she turned her face toward the stars. Elias took one more step closer, not enough to touch her, but enough that his presence could reach her heart. "Tell me what you want, Lyra," he said softly. Her answer was barely a whisper. "I want to feel without destroying." And as she said it, a tear fell from her eye. glowing bright silver as it touched the ground. And for the first time, the ground didn't burn. The next few days changed everything. Elias kept returning to the planet, every sunrise, every quiet hour between missions. The crew thought he was running system checks, but in truth, he was going to see her, Lyra. Each time he arrived, she stood in the same place among the ruins, her glow a little softer, her voice a little gentler, and each time she told him the same thing. "Captain, you shouldn't be here." And each time he smiled and replied, "Then why are you still waiting for me?" It became their quiet game, a fragile routine that both feared and cherished. Elias brought small things with him, old photographs, recordings of music, even a single flower sealed in a radiation-safe glass. He wanted her to see the world she had missed. One evening, as the violet light of the dying sun stretched across the wasteland, Elias placed the glass flower on a stone near her feet. "This is from Earth," he said. "It's called a daisy. My mother used to say daisies mean hope." Lyra looked at it carefully, her silver eyes reflecting the soft glow inside the glass. "Hope," she repeated, almost tasting the word. "I don't remember what that feels like." "You will," Elias said softly. For a moment she almost smiled, but peace never lasted long on that cursed planet. The radiation storms were getting stronger. Each visit cost Elias more than he admitted. His suit readings showed cellular damage. His hands trembled slightly when he removed his gloves. Yet he couldn't stop going back. He didn't care about himself anymore, only about her, and she noticed. "You're dying," Lyra said one day. Her voice trembled as she looked at him. "Your body can't survive this. You've already been exposed too long." Elias tried to laugh it off. "I've been through worse." Her glow flickered violently. "Don't joke. You think I can't feel it? Every step you take near me hurts you. Every time you breathe this air, it poisons you." He looked at her calmly, then let it. "I made my choice." Her eyes widened. "Why? Why would you throw away your life for me?" Elias took a breath, feeling the burn in his chest. "Because no one deserves to die alone. Not even you." For a moment she said nothing, then her body shuddered, her glow pulsing with emotion she could no longer hide. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I've killed everyone I ever cared about. I destroy what I love. You think I don't want to reach out, to touch, to feel?" Tears fell down her face like drops of light. "But when I do, they die. Always, every time." Elias took a slow step forward. "Then maybe this time will be different." She stared at him as if he were mad. "It can't be." "Maybe it can," he said quietly. "Maybe what you are isn't a curse, Lyra. Maybe it's a test, one you were never meant to face alone." Lyra shook her head, stepping back. "No, you don't understand what I am. I wasn't born. I was made. They took a star's core and gave it a shape. They made me feel human so I would suffer when I burned the world. I am death wrapped in a face they once loved." Elias felt his chest tighten. He wanted to reach her, to hold her, but he knew she was right. The air around her was still dangerous. The scanner on his wrist was screaming in red, yet he couldn't walk away. "You say you were made to destroy?" he said softly. "Then prove them wrong." Her voice broke. "How?" "By choosing something else," he said. "By choosing to save instead of kill. You said my presence hurts you, but you still try to protect me. That means there's good in you, Lyra. There always was." The glow in her eyes softened, trembling like a candle in the wind. "You make it sound so easy." "It's not easy," Elias said. "But it's possible. Because you're not just energy or power or weaponry. You're alive. You feel pain. You feel guilt. That means you still have a soul." She stared at him, her lips trembling. "No one has ever said that to me." He smiled faintly. "Then it's about time someone did." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly she reached out her hand. Her fingers glowed like liquid silver, shaking slightly in the air between them. Elias knew it could kill him. His sensors screamed, but he silenced the alarm. He lifted his gloved hand, holding it out toward hers. "Don't," she whispered. "Please, I have to," he said softly. "If I can make you believe you're more than what they made you, then it's worth it." Their hands stopped inches apart, light shimmering between them like a veil. Lyra's power flared, but instead of burning the ground, it pulsed with warmth. The planet seemed to hold its breath. For the first time, she didn't pull away, and for the first time, Elias felt something other than pain in the air around her. It was fragile, faint, but it was life. The wind was still when Elias stood before her. The ruins were quiet. the sky burning faintly with violet clouds. Even the ground seemed to wait, holding its breath for what would happen next. Lyra's hand hovered just inches from his. The light coming from her body shimmered softly, almost like a heartbeat. Elias could feel the heat radiating from her, not like fire, but something deeper, alive. His visor fogged from his own breathing, but his eyes stayed locked on hers. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. Her voice was shaking now. "You'll die if you touch me." Elias gave a small, tired smile. "Then maybe I'll die doing something right." Her expression broke. "Why are you like this?" she said, her voice cracking. "Why can't you just walk away? Why do you keep risking everything for me?" "Because you're not a monster," Elias said softly. "You're someone who's been punished for existing." Tears filled her glowing eyes. She tried to speak, but the words never came. All she could do was shake her head slowly, trembling as the energy around her began to hum louder. The ground started to pulse with blue light. His suit's alarm screamed in warning. Still, Elias didn't move. "I told you once," he said quietly, "that no one deserves to be alone." "I meant it." And before she could protest again, he closed the gap between them. Their hands met. The world exploded with light. For a moment, Elias couldn't breathe. The power that ran through her rushed into him, hot, pure, endless. His body screamed in pain, but he didn't let go. His vision turned white. Every nerve in his body burned like fire and ice. He heard her crying, shouting something he couldn't understand. But through the agony, he felt something else, a warmth. It wasn't just destruction. It was life. He saw flashes in his mind, her memories, her pain. The world that had made her. The humans who once stood by her side, calling her our brightest light. He saw their faces full of love and fear. He saw the day she lost control, the day everything burned, and then silence. When the light faded, Elias was on his knees, gasping. His suit was half melted. Smoke rose from the metal plates on his arms. But he was alive. Lyra stood before him, frozen, her eyes wide with shock. Her glow had changed, softer now, almost golden instead of blue. The radiation around them was fading, the air no longer toxic. I touched you," she whispered in disbelief. "And you're still alive." Elias looked up, his breathing heavy. "Seems so," he said weakly. She took a small, trembling step closer, staring at her hands. "I don't understand. It's never happened before. Everyone I touched, Her voice broke completely. "They die." Elias tried to smile, though his face was pale. Maybe it's not about what you are. Maybe it's about what you feel." Lyra dropped to her knees in front of him. Her hands hovered near his face but didn't touch. She was afraid again, and afraid of hope. "You should be dead," she whispered. "Maybe," he said softly. "But maybe you needed someone who wasn't afraid to die." She shook her head, tears spilling down. "You're a fool, Elias Grant," he chuckled faintly. "Yeah, I've been told that before." For the first time she laughed, and a small shaky sound like a melody she had forgotten. It made the air around them seem lighter, but the moment didn't last. The glow beneath her skin flickered again. A low hum filled the air, deep and heavy, vibrating through the ground. She gasped. No, it's coming back. The energy, it's building again. I can't control it." Elias struggled to stand, holding her shoulders. "You can. You did it once." "You can do it again. I can't," she cried. "If I lose control, it will destroy you, and this planet too." He grabbed her hand firmly, ignoring the searing pain that shot through his arm. "Then focus on me," he said. "Look at me, Lyra, you can control it." Her eyes met his, full of terror. "Why do you believe in me?" "Because someone should," he said softly. And in that moment, everything went quiet again. The storm of light around her began to fade, little by little, until it turned into a soft glow. The deadly heat melted away, replaced by warmth that felt human. Lyra stared at their joined hands, trembling. "You're still alive," she whispered again, as if she couldn't believe it. Elias smiled faintly, his strength fading. "Told you. I don't give up easily." Her tears fell onto his hands, shining like liquid silver. The ground beneath them began to change, the gray dust turning dark, soft, alive. Green sprouts began to push through the soil where none had grown in centuries. The planet itself was healing. Lyra covered her mouth, sobbing softly. "You changed me." "No," Elias said, his voice weak but peaceful. "You changed yourself." She looked at him with trembling eyes. You don't understand. You've done what no one ever could. You've made me human again." And as she spoke, her light grew softer, more beautiful, no longer a weapon, but something pure. Elias smiled one last time before the exhaustion pulled him down. "Told you," he murmured. "You weren't a monster." And then he collapsed into her arms. The silence after the storm felt unreal. The air that once shimmered with deadly radiation was now still and gentle. The dark sky above the ruined city had begun to break open, revealing soft beams of sunlight. Lyra sat on the ground, cradling Elias in her arms. His breathing was weak, shallow, but he was alive. His suit was burned, torn open in places, and his skin carried faint marks of light, as if some of her glow had seeped into him. She brushed her fingers over his face, afraid to touch him too much, yet unable to let go. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Please," his eyelids fluttered. "Still." "Here," he breathed, voice cracked and faint. Tears filled her eyes. She had not cried in years, maybe centuries. But now they came freely, falling onto his face. Her hands trembled as she looked around the ruined land. The soil was changing, glowing softly, turning green. Tiny plants pushed through cracks in the stone. The planet once dead was breathing again. "You did this," she whispered to him. "You made life return." Elias weakly shook his head. "No," he murmured. "We did." She smiled, her heart twisting painfully at his words. "Always so stubborn," she whispered. He tried to laugh, but it turned into a cough. She held him tighter, pressing his head gently against her shoulder. "Don't speak," she said softly. "Just breathe." For a moment the world was quiet again, only their breaths, only the wind. Lyra closed her eyes and felt the warmth spreading through the ground. It wasn't destructive anymore. It was life energy, calm and clean. Her energy. She could feel it. Something inside her had changed. The chaos that once ruled her power was gone. It was as if his touch had rewired her very soul. Where she once felt nothing but burning pain, she now felt peace. But it came at a cost. Lyra looked down at him again. His pulse was fading. His body wasn't made for this kind of energy. He had absorbed too much of it. His cells were glowing faintly, reacting to the alien power. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "No, you can't leave me now." He opened his eyes just enough to see her. "It's okay," he said softly. "If I die here, it's worth it," her voice broke. "Don't say that," he smiled weakly. "You're free now. That's what matters." She shook her head, tears falling harder. "You think freedom means watching you die? You think I wanted to be saved only to lose you?" His eyes softened, but his body grew heavier in her arms. "You were never meant to be alone," he whispered. "Now you're not, Elias." She shouted, her voice shaking. "Don't close your eyes. Look at me." But his eyes were closing, slowly, peacefully, as if he had already accepted it. Lyra's hands glowed brighter as she tried to pour her energy into him. "No, please, take it. Take it all," she cried. Her light flared like a sunburst, wrapping around him, but his human body rejected it. Too fragile, too mortal. The world turned gold around them, the air thick with warmth. Her heart screamed silently inside her chest, and then, just as she thought she'd lost him, she felt it. A faint pulse, not his heartbeat. Something deeper. Their energies intertwined. His life force wasn't fading. It was merging. Her eyes widened. You're part of me now," she whispered. The energy between them pulsed once more, then settled into stillness. His chest rose and fell again, slow but steady. She looked down, her tears turning into a trembling smile. "You stubborn human," she murmured. "Even death can't take you." Hours passed. The sky turned golden as the alien sun rose higher. The once dead valley now glowed with green. Strange plants sprouting in every direction, reaching for the light. Lyra sat beside him, her body calm, her glow gentle. She could feel the life around her responding to her emotions. The world had changed, and so had she. When Elias finally opened his eyes again, the first thing he saw was her face. Soft, peaceful, smiling faintly. "Hey," he whispered, voice hoarse. "You're still here?" "I told you," she said softly. "You can't get rid of me that easily." He tried to sit up, but she stopped him gently. "You need to rest. What happened?" he asked. She looked around at the growing landscape, her voice trembling. "You happened. You saved this world, and you saved me. He blinked slowly, disbelief flickering in his tired eyes. Saved you? Yes, she said, smiling through tears. For the first time in my life, I can touch without destroying. I can feel without hurting. She looked at her hands, no longer burning with violent energy, but glowing softly. You made me human again, Elias smiled faintly. Guess I finally did something right. She touched his cheek gently, and this time there was no pain. Only warmth. You did more than right, she said quietly. You gave me a reason to live. Days passed, though neither of them kept count. The sun rose higher each morning, casting light over the once dead world. What had been a barren wasteland now shimmered with color. Soft grass, tiny flowers, the first signs of running water. The air was breathable, the ground warm. Life had returned. Elias and Lyra made their shelter near the remains of the ancient structure where they had first met. He had repaired what he could of his suit, though he no longer needed it to survive here. The planet was healing, and so was he. But something inside him was changing. He could feel it, the faint pulse of energy in his chest, the same golden light that once belonged to Lyra. Sometimes, when he closed his eyes, he could sense her thoughts, soft whispers, like a connection that went beyond words. It didn't scare him, it felt right. One morning he woke to find her sitting near a stream, her reflection glowing faintly in the water. Her expression was calm, but her eyes carried something deep, sorrow mixed with peace. You're thinking again, Elias said softly, walking toward her. She smiled faintly without turning. I do that a lot now, he sat beside her. About what? About what comes next, she said. Her voice trembled slightly. This world will live again. The energy will spread across the surface. Soon it will be full of life. Even humans could come here someday. He nodded. That's a good thing. She looked down at her hands, the light still faintly glowing. Yes, but it also means I cannot stay. Elias frowned. What do you mean? She turned to face him, her eyes full of quiet sadness. The energy that changed me, and it's spreading through me, connecting to the planet. I'm part of it now. If I stay here, I'll merge completely with it. He froze, his heart tightening. You mean, you'll die? She shook her head gently. Not die. Become something else. I'll still exist, but not like this. I'll be the world itself. Its air, its water, its heartbeat. Elias looked at her in silence, the weight of her words sinking in. There has to be another way. She smiled softly. You always believe there's another way. He grabbed her hand. Because there usually is. Her hand trembled in his. Elias, she said quietly, you gave me something I never had before. A reason to live and someone to believe in. You made me feel human again. But this is my purpose. This is how I make it right. He shook his head. You already did. You don't have to sacrifice yourself for this. Her eyes glistened with tears. If I don't, the energy will fade again. The planet will die. Everything we fought for will vanish. He felt anger and sorrow rising together inside him. Then I'll stay with you, he said firmly. Wherever you go, whatever happens, I'll be there. Her lips trembled into a smile. You can't, you're human. You still have a life to live. Then it's yours, he said quietly. I already gave it to you when I touched you. Lyra's tears fell silently. She touched his cheek, her glow soft and golden. You are the most foolish, beautiful soul I have ever known. And you, Elias whispered, are the bravest I've ever met. The ground around them began to hum softly, light spreading from beneath her feet. The plants glowed brighter, responding to her energy. The change had begun. Lyra looked up at him, her expression full of love and pain. Promise me one thing, she said. Anything. When humans return here one day, she whispered, tell them this world wasn't saved by power, but by compassion. Elias's eyes stung with tears. I promise. She smiled one last time, her light growing stronger. The golden energy surrounded her, lifting her hair like a gentle breeze. Goodbye, Elias Grant, she said softly. Thank you for teaching me what it means to be alive. He reached for her, but his hand passed through the light. Lyra, her voice echoed gently through the wind. Don't be sad. You'll never be alone again. The light expanded, filling the valley, touching every corner of the reborn world. Flowers bloomed where her light passed. Rivers began to flow again. The air shimmered with warmth and life. And when the light faded, She was gone. Elias fell to his knees, staring at the glowing horizon. His heart ached, but somewhere deep inside he could feel her. Not gone, but everywhere. He whispered into the wind, "You warned me not to come closer." His voice cracked, tears falling. "But if I hadn't, the universe would have lost you forever." The wind brushed gently against his face, warm, kind, almost like a hand. He smiled faintly. "She's still here," he murmured. He stood slowly, looking across the new land, the rivers, the green hills, the rising light. The planet was alive. Humanity had a new home, and somewhere in its air, its soil, its sunlit glow, she was alive too. Elias walked toward the sunrise, the promise of tomorrow stretching before him and far above. Carried on the wind came her whisper, soft, eternal, full of peace. "You couldn't stop yourself, and because of that, the stars will never forget you."